play in a band. That's fun.
I was in a band.
Well, hello my friends, we meet again. It's been a while, where should we begin? As you can see by the title of this video, this is about criminally underrated albums. So while, yes, of course, you can go listen to Symbolic or Rust in Peace again, I hope to show you guys some of the albums which I love and I think are criminally overrated by most metal fans. So, let us begin. The Human Abstract, Nocturne, released in 2006. Starting off the list, we have Nocturne by the neoclassical progressive metalcore band, The Human Abstract. To me, this is simply one of the best technical, progressive metalcore albums of all time. It is like if Necrophagist hired a different singer and started playing metalcore. Yes, I know that is very high praise, but I mean, listen to this short clip from the song Nocturne. Yet, despite the outright insane riffage and drumming, the band manages to also cram it in many hooks and sing-along choruses. The real highlight here is the dual guitar mastery of guitarists AJ Minette and Dean Herrera. The riffage is tight and complex, filled with tons and tons of neoclassical goodness, just harmonic minor everywhere. AJ Minette in particular is the absolute star here, with the solo sections worthy of Yngwie Malmsteen or Mohamed Sweetchamez themselves. The end solo sweeping section of Mea Culpa is undoubtedly one of the most impressive things I have ever heard. However, the band isn't all just technical mastery. The singer here, Nathan Els, does a great job singing and screaming over top of the neoclassical chaos going on around him. His vocal style is varied, going from sweet, soft singing to belting notes to sing screams, and then of course to just full-on screaming. Not an easy feat to put vocals over top of this music. He is creative, and honestly, I really like his vocals here. They're just full of personality. The drumming is varied and unhinged, even with some occasional blast beats. There are also a few acoustic and piano sections which are very beautiful and really help with the pacing of the album, and allow you to catch your breath before the next track pummels you once again. Fantastic album, one of my all-time favorites. If you were to check out any song from this album, I recommend Crossing the Rubicon. I would also give their third album, Digital Veil, a listen. It is also a masterpiece, but I really just decided to put one album per band here. Royal Hunt, Paradox, released in 1997. Royal Hunt takes the neoclassical, symphonic prog metal sound and adds a little bit of hair metal for color. Now, normally that sentence would be cause for concern, but here Royal Hunt takes influences from bands like Def Leppard and Bon Jovi with their huge melodic choruses complete with gang vocals and tons of harmonies, and adds it into the repertoire of some utterly fantastic prog metal. Singer DC Cooper has a great voice, and he really shines throughout the album, especially on the song Silent Scream. He is just fantastic there. Lyrics are also very excellent, with questions of God, finding your way home. Just great lyrics here as well. The keyboards are also a huge standout on this album, adding tons of neoclassical flavor and texture to these songs. Andre Anderson is an absolute virtuoso on the keys, and despite his extremely obvious talents, his playing is always done tastefully. In a similar vein, the guitars also give us some very tasteful leads and riffs. The songs as a whole are really the focus here, rather than any individual technicality. A truly criminally underrated album in my opinion. Symphonic progressive metal of the utmost quality. I cannot say enough good things about this record. Of any albums from this list, please check this one out. Check out the song Silent Scream and Message to God. Cradle of Filth, Midian, released in the year 2000. Yes, I know this is a huge genre departure from neoclassical progressive metalcore, but I want to cover a vast array of metal subgenres here in this video. Midian has always been my favorite Cradle of Filth album, as I find it straddles that perfect line between the old, more black metal influenced Cradle and the mid-2000s black and roll, sort of more metalcore Cradle of Filth. Midian takes the gothic symphonic black metal style and refines it. The songwriting is more concise, the songs have more hooks, and the production is much better and much heavier. The band even incorporates a ton of different subgenres into their sound here. In addition to the symphonic black metal, we get some death and maybe even some melodic death metal. The guitar work is excellent with tons and tons of fantastic and heavy riffs, tons of tremolo picking, it's excellent. The riffage on Cthulhu Dawn and Tortured Soul Asylum is especially good. The keyboards played by Martin Powell really steal the show instrumentally for me. He adds so much ambience and texture to these songs, even taking on some of the lead melodies and parts. Great stuff. I think this is also perhaps the best Danny Filth has ever sounded. His vocal range is absolutely just wild here, ranging from banshee shrieks to demonic growls, and seemingly everything in between. I also really enjoy the sporadic use of the female opera singing, but that's not new to Cradle. I enjoy the odd whisper vocal shouts that he does here too. That's weird, but it sounds good. Great stuff. You know, lyrics range from pure filth to great poetry, but I mean, it's Cradle of Filth, so what do you really expect? Give this album a try, I bet you will like it. You might even impress that goth girl you've been crushing on at the mall. For a track to listen to, check out the previously mentioned Cthulhu Dawn. Lost Horizon, A Flame to the Ground Beneath, released in 2003. Lost Horizon really came out of nowhere, dropped two of the best power metal albums of all time, and then fell off the face of the earth. A Flame to the Ground Beneath is their second studio album, and you may even be familiar with one of their songs without even knowing it. The end climax of the song Highlander was used in many memes a couple years ago. You know, this album is just power metal perfection. I mean, just look at this album cover. You know these guys don't f*** around. The songs are grandiose and epic. The lyrics are inspiring and powerful. The guitar work is tasteful, full of great riffs and beautiful lead soaring melodies, and the keys are used expertly. They are never overdone and add just the right amount of depth to these songs. However, the real standout here is the vocalist Daniel Hyman, who I have previously mentioned in my metal vocalist video as a contender for the greatest of all time metal clean vocalist. His range and power is absolutely unmatched. His voice seems to just effortlessly glide from note to note, often moving in an octave or more up or down in one phase. It's just absolutely fantastic and truly extraordinary to hear someone just be so good at singing. The songwriting is also excellent, with each one of these songs containing many hooks and sing-along parts, as well as the longer songs, each featuring climaxes which are absolutely earth-shaking. Just great music here. You know, everything I have said here also applies to their first album, Awakening the World. They're pretty similar, and it's just as good as A Flame to the Ground Beneath, but I had to choose one. For a song to check out, I recommend Cry of a Restless Soul. Seventh Wonder, Mercy Falls, released in 2008. We now move on to the first concept album here on this list. Seventh Wonder is a band where if there were any justice in the world, they would be as big as Dream Theater or Camelot, yet somehow they just slip through the cracks. very, very good power prog album. Mercy Falls contains some of the best power prog ever written in my opinion. From scorching leads to head-bobbing rhythms and gigantic sing-along sections, really this album has it all. The pacing is excellent as well, with several acoustic and softer tracks spread out the album, although the voice acting in some of the interludes is pretty corny, but I write that off to just Swedes trying to imitate an American accent, I guess. Not bad, I can live with it. I like the cheese. I live in the cheese.
What's going on inside of you?
It follows the story of a man in a coma after a car accident who in his comatose state visits Mercy Falls, which is the town he has dreamed up while in his coma. The story then goes through how he and his family deal with the coma and all the fallout from the accident and everything around it. The guitars play a very Symphony X rhythmic chugging pattern throughout most of the album, and the keys really add a ton of extra melody to these songs. The bass playing is also excellent. The vocalist Tommy Karavik has one of the best voices in metal, and his voice just oozes charisma, especially on the tracks Tears for a Father and One Last Goodbye.
The shadows are calling one last goodbye.
He absolutely carries this album all the way through. His vocal lines are sweet and infectious, and his delivery is very emotional. Just fantastic, fantastic stuff. A true prog magnum opus with themes and motifs repeated throughout the album. I absolutely adore this album. Check out the song Unbreakable from this album, as well as Seventh Wonder's third album, The Great Escape, for more. Erra, Drift, released in 2016. Most people consider this one of Erra's weakest projects, and while I can admit that the production is lacking in punch, the songwriting and hooks and singing and riffs certainly are not. Erra on Drift takes the progressive gencore sound that they had on Impulse and Augment and refines it into this much more melodic and beautiful package. Essentially, they mix the gencore sound with a hefty dose of post-hardcore, which is honestly just right up my alley. The songs here are very lush, warm, and are even sweet. You know, they're very sweet sounding songs. I love it. They really sound a lot like the album cover. But not to worry, there's still a ton of Erra gencore riffage here. The addition of ex-Texas in July vocalist JT Cavey adds a lot to their sound. JT brings a more hardcore, post-hardcore, metalcore essence to the songs, with his more mid-range vocals. Jesse Cash's singing is also great, as well as the lyrical content is much less ambiguous, you know, space-related, gent kind of lyrics, and more emotional and speaks towards regrets and feelings of vapid, empty urbanism.
Cityscapes, skeletons, taking shape.
All great stuff and topics that you really don't hear that much. The leads on this album are absolutely just gorgeous, and the guitar work is just out of this world. Fantastic stuff. Excellent, excellent album, and I hope the band decides to remix this album for its 10-year anniversary, which is coming out in about 2 years here. Check out the song Safe Haven. Eternal Champion, The Armor of Ire, released in 2016. This album sounds like it comes straight out of 1985, and I absolutely love it. The album sounds just like how the cover looks. A huge hulking muscular warrior mowing down his enemies. It is reverb-drenched nostalgia worship at its absolute finest. The aesthetic that the cover sets is transitioned fully into the music. It sounds like a Karl Edward Wagner novel. The very nasally Manila Road inspired vocals are excellent and give the record a ton of charm, and I love the little chirps that he does here. Fantastically unique. This all combines with the fantastic riffage which echoes the early days of heavy metal, especially the harmonies on The Last King of Pictum. And the keys that are played here add a lot to the atmosphere, and the ambient sections really give this album a very foreboding and epic feeling. They take a lot of dungeon synth influence here, and it works fantastically with the whole aesthetic the band is presenting. And really, the production is the star of the show here. It truly sounds like an album from the early 80s, absolutely soaking wet in reverb and fuzzy guitar tones and cheesy keys, yet in contrast to a lot of those early 80 records, everything is clear and purposeful here. You can hear everything and it just sounds great and it works so good together. Just a fantastic album. Check out the song I Am the Hammer. 3 Inches of Blood, Advance and Vanquish, released in 2004. Take Judas Priest's Painkiller, add in a little melodic death metal and power metal, and we have Advance and Vanquish. Fellow Canadians, 3 Inches of Blood's second album is a relentless assault of falsetto vocals, screams, and excellent riffs. Clean singer Cam Pipes sings exclusively in Judas Priest tier falsetto voice, which is really very powerful and works extremely well with the fast-paced, more metalcore, melodic death metal, power metal here riffs. Often layered with screen vocals from the other vocalist Jamie Hooper, who together create a very unique sound. However, the vocals are not the only standouts here. The riffs are killer, with tons and tons of great Iron Maiden-inspired harmonies and solos, and the 3-part trilogy of songs, which are Upon the Boiling Seas trilogy, bring in more of a pirate theme to some of the songs here, an homage to Running Wild, I am sure. These 3 songs are some of my favorites in the album, and you know, the production on here is just also excellent. Everything's very clear, very punchy. Just a really great, absolutely solid album. And check out the classic track, Deadly Sinners. Skeletonwitch, Beyond the Permafrost, released 2007. I actually saw Skeletonwitch playing with 3 Inches of Blood and the Black Dahlia Murder way back in 2012. What a great show that was. Skeletonwitch combines death, thrash, and black metal, and adds in a healthy dose of melody over top of all of this. This album just contains riff after riff after riff. It's basically just hoarding great riffs. Riff hoarding. Core, as you could call it maybe. Vocalist Chance Gannett gives us a great performance, and despite the more black metal influenced delivery, his diction is very good and most of the lyrics are extremely clear. I first heard this band on the video game Brutal Legend, which if you want me to make a deep dive on, let me know down below. And the song in the video game was Soul Thrashing Black Sorcery. And from the first notes of the song I was hooked. It's fast, relentless, and catchy. Great stuff. Again, there's just tons of great riffs, great drumming. This is just an extremely solid album which contains tons of influences from different genres and just melds them all together, and it just works really well. Great musicianship, great vocals, great drumming, bass playing. Everything's just great in this album. Check out the song Beyond the Permafrost for maximum riffage. Novelists, Souvenirs, released in 2015. The final record I will recommend to you all here is from French metalcore band Novelists. They took a very unique approach to the early 2010s metalcore/gentcore sound. The guitar work is the real standout here. Some of the most unique riffing ever heard on metalcore in my opinion. The abundance of interesting rhythms, combined with these glorious chords and arpeggios, is unrivaled and still has yet to be touched in my opinion from this genre. These wonderfully majestic riffs are complemented by the tremolo-picked atmosphere typical of bands in this era of metalcore, and it just creates just such a wonderful wall of sound. The The vocals are also great. Vocalist Mateo has formidable bark to his mid-low growls that he uses throughout most of the album, but his cleans are also very good and full of emotion, especially on some of the softer tracks, and there are a few on here. The lyrics are also fantastic, and I give them extra credit for being non-native English speakers and giving us such profound and deep lyrics. If you're a guitarist, you need to hear this album, and even if you're not the biggest fan of the metalcore sound, I feel like you would still benefit from hearing some of these riffs on here. Check out the track Gravity for good taste, what this album has to offer. And that's all from me here today. What album would you guys add? Let me know what your criminally underrated albums are down in the comments. I always love checking out your recommendations that you guys give me. And remember to like and sub, check out my Patreon, and as always, so long and good night.